The Divided Kingdom, How Israel Split After Solomon as Islamic History. Part 1. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. History rarely changes in a single day. Great civilizations do not usually collapse overnight. The strongest kingdoms are seldom destroyed by one battle. Instead, they weaken slowly, silently, almost unnoticed. A disagreement becomes a division. A division becomes rivalry. Rivalry becomes conflict. And before people realize what has happened, an empire that once seemed unshakable begins to fall apart. This is exactly what happened after the death of Solomon alayhi salam. Only a short time earlier, the children of Israel had lived under the greatest kingdom they had ever known. Their ruler was not merely a king. He was a prophet of Allah. Justice governed the land. Trade flourished. Peace spread throughout the region. Neighboring nations respected their strength. The kingdom appeared unbreakable. Yet beneath the surface, hidden problems were beginning to grow. And once Sulayman alayhi salam returned to his Lord, those hidden cracks slowly widened. Tonight, we begin one of the most important chapters in the history of the children of Israel. The story of how one united kingdom became two. The story of how political division changed an entire nation. And the story of why no kingdom can survive unless it remains firmly connected to Allah. Our story begins immediately after the passing of Sulayman alayhi salam. His death was not only the loss of a great ruler, it was the end of an extraordinary era. For nearly 80 years, first under Dawud, David alayhi salam, and then under Sulayman alayhi salam, the children of Israel had enjoyed remarkable stability. Two righteous prophets had governed them. Justice had become the foundation of society. The people had witnessed the blessings that come when a nation obeys Allah. But Allah has made one principle clear throughout history. No human leader remains forever. Every generation is tested after its righteous leaders depart. Would the next generation preserve what had been built? Or would they allow worldly desires to destroy it? The answer would shape the future of the children of Israel. After Sulayman alayhi salam, leadership passed to his son. Historical sources identify him as Rehoboam. The Qur'an does not discuss his reign in detail, and therefore we avoid adding claims that the Qur'an and authentic Sunnah do not establish with certainty. What is certain, however, is that after the era of Sulayman alayhi salam, unity did not remain as strong as before. Old tribal differences began to reappear. The 12 tribes had lived together under powerful leadership. Now every tribe began thinking about its own interests, its own influence, its own future. Small disagreements that had once been controlled now became public. People began comparing themselves with one another. Some believed certain tribes deserved greater authority. Others felt neglected. Others questioned decisions made by those in power. Slowly, trust began to weaken, and whenever trust disappears, unity soon follows. This is one of history's greatest lessons. No nation is destroyed first by its enemies. It is weakened first by division within itself. Allah reminds the believers in the Qur'an, "Hold firmly to the rope of Allah altogether and do not become divided." Surah Al-Imran 3:103. This command was not only for one generation. It is a warning for every believing community until the day of judgment, because division always carries a price. As internal tensions increased, political disagreements became more serious. People no longer discussed only religious matters. Now they argued over leadership, power, taxes, influence, responsibility. Every group believed it understood the solution better than the others. When personal interests become more important than the common good, unity becomes increasingly difficult. The generation that had lived under Sulayman alayhi salam still remembered the blessings of unity, but younger generations had not experienced the struggles that built that kingdom. Like many nations before them, they inherited prosperity without remembering the sacrifices behind it. History repeated itself once again. Comfort produced carelessness. Carelessness produced disagreement. And disagreement threatened everything their fathers had built. Meanwhile, neighboring nations carefully observed these developments. Foreign rulers often wait patiently. They understand that divided nations eventually become vulnerable. A united kingdom is difficult to challenge. A divided kingdom weakens itself. This principle has remained true throughout human history. As debates continued, voices became louder. Leaders found it increasingly difficult to satisfy everyone. Some demanded change. Others resisted. Instead of seeking solutions together, many became occupied with defending their own positions. The wisdom that had characterized the rule of Dawud and Sulayman alayhi salam became more difficult to preserve. Yet the greatest danger was not political disagreement itself. The greater danger was allowing those disagreements to damage faith, justice, and brotherhood. Because once hearts become divided, societies eventually follow. The children of Israel had seen this pattern before during the age of the judges. Whenever they moved away from Allah's guidance, weakness followed. Whenever they returned sincerely to Him, strength returned. The lesson had never changed, but each generation still had to learn it again. Soon, the disagreements would reach a turning point. A decision would be made, one that would permanently change the political map of the children of Israel. The United Kingdom established under Dawud alayhi salam, strengthened under Sulayman alayhi salam, would no longer remain united. Two kingdoms would emerge, two governments, two capitals, and from that moment onward, the history of the children of Israel would never be the same again. To be continued in Part 2. The Divided Kingdom, How Israel Split After Solomon as Islamic History. Part 2. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In Part 1, we witnessed the quiet beginning of a great change. The kingdom built by David alayhi salam, strengthened by Solomon alayhi salam, no longer possessed the same unity that had once made it one of the greatest kingdoms in history. At first, the disagreements seemed manageable. Many believed they would soon disappear. But history teaches us that problems left unresolved rarely become smaller. Instead, they grow. The elders of the nation struggled to preserve stability. Tribal leaders defended their own interests. Public dissatisfaction increased. What had once been private discussions gradually became open political conflict. Eventually, the kingdom reached a turning point. According to well-known historical accounts, the united monarchy separated into two political kingdoms. The southern kingdom continued under the descendants of Dawud and became associated with Judah, with Jerusalem remaining its center. The northern tribes formed a separate kingdom commonly known as Israel. These political details come from historical sources rather than the Qur'an itself. So Muslims treat them as history, not as matters of Islamic creed. For the first time since the reigns of Dawud and Sulayman alayhi salam, the children of Israel no longer stood under one united government. What had once been one nation had become two kingdoms. Families found themselves divided by political borders. Old loyalties became stronger than national unity. Suspicion replaced trust. Competition replaced cooperation, and gradually the strength that unity had once provided began to disappear. This is one of history's most enduring lessons. Division may appear to solve immediate political disputes, but it often creates far greater problems for future generations. The neighboring nations carefully observed these developments. A divided people became easier to influence, easier to pressure, and eventually, easier to attack. While the political landscape changed, Allah's guidance never changed. The success of any nation still depended upon obedience to Him. Whenever people placed worldly ambitions above justice and righteousness, they moved further away from the blessings that had once made them strong. The Qur'an repeatedly reminds believers that unity is a gift from Allah and that division weakens communities. The story of the children of Israel became a living example of this truth. Yet Allah's mercy never ceased. He did not leave His people without guidance. Throughout the generations that followed, Allah continued sending prophets to remind them of Tawheed, justice, repentance, and obedience. Whenever corruption spread, a prophet called them back. Whenever oppression increased, a prophet warned them. Whenever hope seemed lost, Allah opened another door of guidance. This pattern continued throughout the history of the children of Israel. The decline of the kingdom did not happen because Allah's guidance had failed. It happened because many people failed to follow that guidance consistently. That lesson remains relevant for every nation today. Power without faith cannot survive. Wealth without gratitude cannot last. Justice abandoned eventually becomes injustice, and a nation divided against itself slowly loses the strength that once protected it. The story of the divided kingdom is therefore not merely ancient history. It is a warning, a reminder, and a lesson for every generation. As the years passed, both kingdoms faced increasing challenges: political instability, external threats, spiritual decline among many people. The glorious era of Dawud and Sulayman alayhi salam was becoming a distant memory. But Allah had not abandoned his servants. Another great prophet would soon rise. A prophet whose mission was to call people back to the worship of Allah alone during a time when many had turned toward false beliefs. His courage would inspire generations. His unwavering faith would confront powerful rulers. And his name would forever be remembered among the greatest callers to Tawheed. That prophet was Elijah alayhi salam. His story marks the beginning of another remarkable chapter in the history of the children of Israel. To be continued. Next episode. Prophet Elijah, as calling Israel back to Tawheed Islamic history. And Allah knows best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.